What is going on, everybody? Welcome and thanks for joining us once again for another episode of OTP Tuesdays. This is On the Pipe Podcast. I am your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and today is Tuesday, June the 2nd, 2020. We got an awesome show coming at you right now. We're going to do a recap of this past weekend, the Camp Coker Bullet GNCC happening down there in Society Hill, South Carolina. We're going to go over that, recap the weekend, let you know what happened, give you some of the behind-the-scenes info as well as the results for our pro classes, and then we're going to cut straight to an interview with this weekend's overall winner. Spoiler alert, it was the Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki rider of Josh Strang, taking that win, his 21st career win, his first win on the Kawasaki. So we're going to talk to him. Got kind of a long interview with him. Josh, friend of the show, he's always got a lot of good stuff to add, and one of the best attitudes and best mindsets of everyone in the sport. So it was very fun to catch up with him, and you will be able to hear that as well. That is what's going to happen on tonight's episode. Tomorrow, we're going to be putting out a very special edition, a little bit out of the norm, but we're going to make it happen. Tomorrow, we will be joined by WXC legend, in my opinion, one of the best women to ever ride a motorcycle ever, Taylor Jones of Australia. She will be joining us on the show tomorrow, so you'll be able to hear that. Factory Sherco rider Grant Baylor on a Factory 1 Sherco. He grabbed a podium position this past weekend. He got third place. We will catch up with him tomorrow, hear how his weekend went, including that sequence of shots by Ray Newton of him going onto his face. No doubt we'll talk to him about that. And then also, one of the biggest announcements and some big news, stoked to have him on. We will also have Grant Baylor's teammate on Factory 1 Sherco, Cody Webb, hard enduro, extreme rider extraordinaire. He tried his hand in the sands of South Carolina at a little bit of GNCC racing this past weekend. And oh, by the way, Sunday was his birthday as well. So he will be on, and you'll be able to hear his thoughts from an outsider's point of view, what it was like to come into a GNCC and race it at the point of his career that he is at now. So tonight, we got a recap and Josh Strang for OTP Tuesday. Tomorrow, we're going to have Taylor Jones, Grant Baylor, Cody Webb, interviews coming at you. It all happens and begins right now. Thanks for joining us. This is On the Pipe Podcast.
10 seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
Good evening, beautiful people. Thank you for joining us once again. This is OTP Tuesday from On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and we have a lot to talk about. A lot is going on. A lot has happened since the last time you and I have spoke. That was 2 weeks ago. I apologize about last week. I've had a lot going on, and I don't mean to keep using that as an excuse, but ended up having some things I had to take care of Tuesday night. Ended up have some things to take care of Wednesday night. Let me tell you something. Being a safety manager for construction companies, I work specifically for a telecom company. Being involved in safety during a pandemic, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. Also, my dog Molly, she has been sick, so I've been spending a lot of time with her, which I'm very grateful for. Last time we spoke, I think I told you about her condition. They told her she had a couple hours to a couple of days to live. That was 3.5 weeks ago, and Molly's still kicking. She's doing strong. She's sitting here staring at me right now with her little crooked legs crossed. So that is what's been going on in my world. We've also had a lot of things happen. I've been making notes. I wholeheartedly had a whole show planned last week. Had guests lined up. I had some stuff to try out. I had all this stuff I was listening here. ended up not being able to get it done. I did, however, go on Rodney Tomlin's show, the 10 Seconds Cast, I think is what he's going with. That was actually really cool. He got to talk to me, I got to talk to him. I didn't mean to sound like a little butthole by saying that, but I got to talk to him about how I got involved into the sport and kind of from the beginning until now. So if you weren't able to check that, I shared it on the On the Pipe Facebook page. You can also check his show out. It's 10seconds.cool, I think is the website. So you can just type in 10seconds.cool. But yeah, I think it's the number. I don't know. You can look for it. Look for On the Pipe podcast. You'll find a link to it. So it was really cool to be able to go on his show and do that live. That was actually my first time being a guest on a show. And let me tell you something. It's a lot less pressure when you're not the one that has to generate the content and the ideas and the questions. So I enjoyed that and enjoyed talking to him. And he did it live on video. So ours are pretty much audio. Got to do it live on video so everyone got to see my fat, stupid face. Which brings me to my next point. Since the last time we spoke, kind of debuted it this weekend. I got the mullet coming out the back. I got the mustache coming out the front. I'm telling you, quarantine does things to change a man, and I'm on my way to changing. And actually, I think I'm about to shave both of them. It was fun while it lasted. This is the longest my mustache has ever been. It's the second longest my mullet has ever been, which my mullet's coming in pretty good. That one's going to be hard to shave, but I think I'm going to have to do it. I get around strangers, especially in work environments, dealing with some of the customers that we deal with, and then, and only then, do I realize that I kind of seem like a weirdo. I went and played golf with a couple of doctors. They for sure thought that I was a weirdo, so I don't know, might have to shave them off. Also, since we talked, it has been discovered that there is a parallel universe that got discovered by NASA that time runs backwards. What? And no one even cares. That's how crazy 2020 has been already, that the government comes out and basically declassifies and says that we have evidence of UFOs. And now they come out and say that we have evidence of a parallel universe where time runs backwards and nobody cares. You probably didn't even see those headlines. You didn't see them from a news network. You might have saw them from someone on Facebook, but there's a good chance that you never even saw that. That is the world that we're living in today. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world. I am not going to get involved in it. The P in OTP does not stand for politics, so I'm gonna stand clear from it. I don't want to get involved in the issues. What I will say is that something needs to happen. Something needs to change. I think as far as the events going on right now with George Floyd and all these protests and everything that are going on throughout the nation, I think this is the one time in history that something controversial has come up like this, and all of America is in agreement on the core of the subject, and that is that video was wrong. And it just there was no gunshots. This isn't a gun control debate. This isn't calling for more video evidence. I think this is the first time that everyone can agree that what happened was wrong. Now, that's where the agreeing ends. I mean, everyone has their own opinion about what's going on, what should go on, what's happening, what should happen, blah, blah, blah. We're going to steer clear of that, but yeah, I didn't even mean to mention it. Didn't even mean to bring it up this far, but it's going on, it's happening. And it's in the middle of a pandemic. And murder hornets. What happened to murder hornets? I feel like we skipped murder hornets. Did we skip murder hornets? I feel like we skipped murder hornets. And that was kind of short-lived. But anyway, all this other stuff is happening. The Last Dance. I didn't get the chance to talk to you guys about The Last Dance since the last episode. That is a 10-part series that ESPN put out on Michael Jordan and the Dream Team, the 1998 Chicago Bulls. I know that that's not the Dream Team, but it's same era. We're going to associate it with that. But it's a 10-part series. Someone said they put it on Netflix. I watched it on ESPN+. I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. Wherever it is at, I highly suggest that if you're listening to this, you go watch The Last Dance. It's insane. I know that majority of you do not care about basketball. As a lifelong wrestler, it is actually a requirement for me to not give a crap about basketball. Never cared about basketball. I was hooked on the edge of my seat waiting for these series to come out every single Sunday while they were coming out. It's so good. It's so cool to see inside the mind of someone as dominant and as great as Michael Jordan. He has a completely different mindset. He did things that no other person has done, and that's why he's accomplished things that no other person has done. Shameless plug. Go. I think it's really entertaining, and I think you would probably think it was really entertaining. So The Last Dance is what it's called. It's about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. What else is happening? I went skydiving. Skydiving is one of those things that I can't believe I haven't done already. I did it. It was fun. Kind of went in a rabbit hole. My little brother's already getting certified. He might already be certified. I don't know. But it was a lot of fun. If you haven't jumped out of an airplane, I would also recommend jumping out of an airplane. So that was pretty cool. That makes me want to get certified skydiving so I can go video skydiving people, because I paid like $90 for a video and it stunk. So that's another random one. What else happened? I ate a meal in a restaurant, sat down, ate some food. I even went to a Mexican spot. They even brought me chips and salsa. It was a wonderful time. So that's cool. You never realize it's the little things that you'll miss, but eating in a restaurant is something that has definitely happened. Ricky Russell, after his injury at the Bulldog number 2, or the Georgia number 2, which was the Bulldog GNCC, we talked about his crash and cutting his femoral artery. Ricky Russell is safe. Ricky Russell is healthy. Ricky Russell is out of the hospital and into the couch of Stu Baylor. So I think he's staying down there at the Stu Baylor compound. So it's awesome to see that he made it through that. Probably still in a lot of pain. Need to catch up with Ricky and see how he's feeling. But definitely something important to note, that Ricky Russell is out of the hospital and he is on the mend from that broken femur. Either broken femur or broken hip. Those might be the same thing. Something broke, and the big cut in his leg that went down to the femoral artery. So still all of our well wishes with Ricky Russell that he does have a quick recovery from here. Obviously, that is not something easy to deal with, but glad to know that he's out of the hospital and on the mend. Trevor Bollinger, good friend of the show, North Carolina's own, the Burke County Intimidator, Tebow, 739, your 2016 XC2 Pro Class champion. He signs a 2-year extension with Rockstar Energy Factory Husqvarna. So he is sitting out this season with a knee reconstruction surgery of his own. Gotta be a little bit of relief, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit relief on Tebow's end to know that he has a job for the next 2 years. Rockstar Energy Husqvarna has invested time, energy, effort, and money into him, and they obviously see him as a good part of their future. They go ahead and sign him up for 2 more years on his deal. So that is awesome news for Trevor to continue with that factory team and be able to continue to race and compete. And we look forward to seeing him getting back healthy and competitive. I know that it has to be driving him nuts watching racing going on this season, knowing that he is sitting on the sideline with his Rockstar Energy Factory Husqvarna teammate Thad Duvall, who's been out riding the bike. Doctor told him not to. He's doing it anyway. He's out there riding the bike, riding the exercise bike. He's paddling the kayak. He's ripping the lips. He's catching the bass. He's having a good old time. TJD Hunt on Instagram. If you haven't followed his hunting Instagram, or I guess sportsman Instagram, because he got fishing on there too, go follow that. Looking forward to seeing those Husky boys back at it next year on those Rockstar Energy Husqvarna machines. Speaking of Thad and speaking of Stu, they found a UTV stripper pole. It goes right there on the trailer hitch, a damn post up right there on the back. They're looking for one of those. They posted about it. I thought it was hilarious. So maybe we'll see old Maggie Duvall and Jade Baylor up on those UTV stripper poles. But they were looking for that. Grant Baylor and Josh Toth, They were on the event t-shirts this week. Obviously, the event has already happened, and you've already seen those t-shirts. And both of those guys came down to a battle between the two of them for that final podium position. Josh Toth looking great. Just a couple of races back on his injured leg. It was broken last year. It was tweaked again this year. Bent the rod that's in his leg, but he's let it heal. The speed is still there. As he showed, he says he had some issues in this past weekend, but Grant Baylor ended up grabbing that podium position. Josh Toth did run in that third place spot for a large part of the race, though. Jimmy Dakotas announced his retirement. He's a motocross, supercross guy, but he is a New England Ripper and a very, very cool, humble, and down-to-earth guy, but he decided to hang it up and focus on his health. So, yeah, I had that on there. This past weekend, we had a good friend of the show in OTP OG, the 945 Livid Extreme Fly Racing SR1 suspension, universal voice data, on the pipe podcast, racing KTM, Trevor Barrett, he's been on the show a bunch. He made his XC1 Pro Class debut. He's been a long-time XC2 competitor. He put it on the front row with them old red number plates and had himself a pretty good race. He's got some suspension issues to dial in and figure out, but he had himself a good race, finished 7th in that XC1 Pro Class in his first time out. So that was pretty cool. Wanted to do more about talking about that going into this weekend, but missed it, so we're going to talk about it after the fact. My other thing on here is COVID is so damn silly. That's all it says. So that's probably one of those nights that I told you I got tied up and wasn't able to do a show last week. Speaking of that, though, what a weird time. No podium this past weekend. No podium at the GNCC. Supercross is back. No podium at Supercross. Supercross, they had the dang microphones set up across the stage from each other. Someone's asking the questions, like Daniel Blair was asking questions on one side of the stage, and Eli Tomac is on the complete opposite side of the stage answering questions. It's so weird. Even at the GNCC, not sharing a microphone anymore. Like, usually the announcer tells how it went, and then they put the microphone to the rider. That wasn't happening. They had a separate microphone. Such a weird time. I mean, we got to do what we got to do so we can go back to racing, but it's just strange times all the way around. 2020, heck of a year. But yeah, I mean, I would much rather deal with no podiums and not sharing microphones and things of that nature than the alternative, which the alternative would be to not be going racing. So certainly grateful for the Safe to Race task force and everything that they've done to get us back to GNCC racing. And with that being said, let's get right into the thick of it. Excuse me. Josh Strang. How about it? Josh Strang, your 2010 GNCC XC1 and overall class champion. He had not won a race since June 12th, 2016. And I don't want to go too much into depth on that because we got this whole interview with Josh where he can explain it himself. But good for him. I was pumped for Josh Strang. He went out there. He rode a great race. He stayed out front the majority of the race. Caleb ended up having a crash there towards the end of the last lap, but Josh had it well under control. He managed the race perfectly. He managed his fuel and his gas stops perfectly, which, spoiler alert, found out that he had nothing to do with that. He said that his team just tells him when to pit, but once again, you'll be hearing that coming up. But Josh Strang going out there getting career win number 21, putting that Kawasaki in the dead center of the figurative box because there was no podium, but awesome for him. It was his first win that his son Maverick got to see. It was his first win since he's been married. It was his first win of the season. He's now in second place in points, 23 points back from Caleb Russell, and yeah, he's on a roll. He's having fun and he's doing the things he needs to do. But yeah, sorry, I've already done the interview with him at this point. You're gonna be hearing it here in a minute. But yeah, it just I was pumped for him. Happy to see it. Me and him, we played a lot of games of old Modern Warfare together. So we've killed a lot of folks together. We've been through a lot of matches together. So it's cool to see him carry me and the team on Call of Duty, and then go out there and win races on the weekend. So congratulations to Josh. Caleb Russell had a perfect season going. This is his farewell season. As we all know, he's going to turn his focus elsewhere after this year. So he had a perfect season going, and that was one of the big talks at the beginning of the year of whether or not he could make it a perfect season. And I think pretty much everybody said that, yeah, Caleb, he's gonna walk his way through it. I remember everyone talking about that. Even on the broadcast, they talked about it. But this goes to show you that anything can happen, and it wasn't. It was a straight up race. It was a straight up battle, and Josh Strang was able to go out there and get a win. So that's racing. That's the racing that we want to see. I think everybody wants to see that happen. So that was really cool. And speaking of broadcast, I do want to say a huge thank you to Racer TV. I was in the booth this past weekend once again. I thought that was super cool. And yeah, I enjoyed being in the booth with Rodney Tomlin and Johnny Gallagher, and just able to hang out and call the race. And I appreciate them letting me be a part of it. And yeah, had a good time. Also want to give a quick shout out to Justin Hill, the former factory rider, the former West Coast 250 Supercross champion. He, along with our former co-host, and well, he doesn't like me saying what the product that he used to make, but he used to make a product that a lot of people enjoyed on their dirt bikes, Devin Byram. They both did the intro for the show, so that music you heard at the beginning with Big Thomas Caldwell kicking it off, that was Justin Hill and Devin Byram playing that. So I meant to say that as soon as the show started. I always forget. Don't know how, but I always forget. So I want to throw that in there. And also, big thanks to Armored Graphics. Armored Graphics, your number one source for off-road graphics. Check them out, armoredgraphics.com. They got their website. They're adding stuff to it. Go check them out. Promo code OTP. And follow them on social media at Armored Graphics. Also, a lot of photographers in the game nowadays. A lot of photographers. There's I brought my camera out. I knew I wasn't racing, so I brought my camera. Everywhere I went, I was like bumping into a photographer. There is 18,000 photographers. Well, let me take that back. There's like 6 photographers, and then 17,994 people with cameras. So there's a difference, and there's a lot of people. There's everywhere you look, there's camera people, which is cool because now everyone has quality pictures coming from every different angle. A few years ago, 2016, there really wasn't any good pictures being taken. So that's when I started dabbling. But now, I mean, there's pictures everywhere. Everyone's taking pictures. Super cool, but also kind of saturated. But Ray Newton, he's a young guy. You can check him out. Ray Newton Smug Mug. He took pictures of the morning and the afternoon race. He takes some good pictures. He took the sequence of Grant Baylor going to his face. Ken Hill, series photographer. He helps us out with the show, provides us with some pictures. You can check him out. He's got a Smug Mug as well. Mac Faint is kind of taking the world by storm. He adds a interesting new perspective to the way that he photographs races, is not just riding pictures. So I think that's really cool on Mac Faint's part. You can check him out. It kind of came out of nowhere. So Mac Faint, you see his pictures all over the place now. But yeah, I mean, Darren Chapman, he wasn't there this past weekend, but he does a lot of good photo work as well. I'm probably forgetting somebody. Don't get mad at me. But everybody else, there's just people out there with cameras all over the place, and they're just all over the place. Yeah, just want to put that out there. I always forget to say those things, even about Justin Hill and Devin Byram doing my intro. I meant to say it as soon as the show started, and between the 2.5 seconds it took me to press record, I forgot to say it. So we got them in there now. Armored Graphics, they help us out a lot. They can help you out a lot as well, especially if you want to look good. and that's what they specialize, making your bike look good. Back to the race. Josh Strang, he won. Caleb Russell, he got second. Grizzly Grant Baylor puts a Sherco back on the podium once again. If I'm not mistaken, that is Sherco's third ever podium in the Premier class at a GNCC. Two of them coming by way of big brother Stu Baylor Jr., but Grant Baylor gets himself one as well. We're going to be talking to him. So, like I said, look forward to that interview tomorrow from Grant Baylor, but awesome ride from him. Just want to note, Jordan Ashburn, he was out there on rails too. He's looking real good, riding real good, and ended up falling just short of the podium in fourth place. Josh Toth was running very well as well. He was looking good out there. Like I mentioned, he ran third for a majority of the day. I'm not sure what happened with him and what ended up happening there, but something happened. Lane Michael, a murderer on the moto track. We saw Lane on the podium a couple weeks ago at the Georgia 2 event. That was the Bulldog GNCC. So Lane Michael coming into his own there. He had some solid times a day. He was riding with Caleb there for a little bit at the beginning. Them two brother-in-laws and training partners. Lane Michael, he's got the speed and he shows it. He was putting on a good race early on. I haven't seen his race report or what happened with him, but that's a guy that I'd like to see working his way back up towards the podium and getting more podiums throughout the season as the season goes on. XC2 is one of the funnest battles that I think all of us have had the pleasure to be able to watch in recent memory. Every single race, there's 4 or 5 guys that can go out there and win races, and they have all won races this year. But there's a change of the points lead this weekend, just to let you know how close this racing really is and how close it really stays. So I think that was really cool. Johnny Gerard on that Trail Gestures KTM, he goes out there, gets the win, takes over the points lead. Mike Witkowski, who was leading the points at the beginning of the season on that Ampro Factory Yamaha, he puts down a solid second place finish. And then Craig DeLong went into the weekend leading the points. He had the white plates, which looked really sick on his factory Rockstar Husqvarna. But he was able to battle back. He ended up in third. And that is how your XC2 podium rounded out. So these 3 guys pushing each other back and forth, pushing the pace. They're running a train up through the overall in the GNCCs. At a time, they were running 4, 5, and 6 overall. So awesome battles going on in XC2. That is going to be a class that is going to come down to the wire. It is not going to be very easily earned. I think we've seen runaway XC2 title run since after 2015. So ever since then, the guys winning XC2 won the majority of the races every year since then, from Bollinger to Toth to Ben Kelly ×2. Made it look easy. Obviously, it wasn't easy, but they made it look easy. There was really no one challenging them for race wins and really threatening that championship in years past. This year, it's going to be a 4-way battle or a 3-way battle for sure between these 3 guys going all the way through the end of the season. And it's one that I am excited to keep an eye on as we continue to move throughout 2020. The FMF XC3 class saw Zach Hayes grabbing the win, Nate Ferderer in second, and the man, the myth, the legend, the Yamaha-backed Jason Rains rounds out that XC3 podium in third, which Jason's been having a great season. So is Zach Hayes and Nate Ferderer. All 3 of them guys have been riding good. They are all working their way up well inside the top 20 overall on some 125s, which is absolutely awesome. But I guess we got to kind of touch on it. There's been some drama in the XC3 class. Some stuff going on that was happening over on Facebook. It's been deleted since then. I've kind of gone back and forth with myself and in my head about how much I wanted to delve into what is going on. But I guess that's a class. It seems like there's drama every single year. I mean, every year there's been drama ever since the first year that it started. And every year since then, there's drama. And that drama was kind of talked about publicly and openly last night, I think, is when it was. And like I said, it's all been since deleted. And I don't know. I like and respect both sides of where this is coming from, and I kind of think both sides should really dial it back. I mean, it's one thing to talk about what's going on. It's another thing to start putting out accusations or to start basically trying to discredit or break someone else down, if that makes any sense. And like I said, it's something I kind of want to tiptoe around and don't want to get too in depth in it, just because, like I said, I know both sides. And yeah, it's just it's a shame to see, really. I mean, at the core, we're all racing for fun in the long run, which obviously people are racing for more than fun, but that's what it should all be about. I mean, we're all a giant family. And so I think that's really one of the key things about GNCC is how close-knit the GNCC racing nation and the GNCC family is. And I just don't want anybody to lose sight of that or lose track of that. And know at the core of this how we all got started, why we all got started. And yeah, let's just go out, have some good, clean racing, and leave it at the track. I mean, the guys at the very pinnacle of the sport have that down to a science. And I mean, if they're going out there and racing for fun with their jobs and their well-being on the line, I mean, that is what pays their bills. That is what feeds their kids. That is what pays for the roof that goes over their house. I mean, if they can get along each weekend and they can all be friends and they can keep the drama aside and they can keep it on the track, then there's absolutely no reason why everybody else can't do that as well, in my opinion. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Like I said, I'm not naming any names. I'm not taking sides. I just want to see everyone have fun. I want good racing, and but who cares what I want? That's what it boils down to. And then last thing worth noting, Brody Johnson. I cannot go an episode of On the Pipe podcast without talking about Phoenix Racing Honda's Brody Johnson. He's a man on a mission, working his way up to the top 15. I think he got 17th overall on the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Won the 250A class and takes top amateur once again by, I think, over 3 minutes. I should have had all this written down or pulled up, but I'm pretty sure that Brody Johnson won top am by 3 minutes. And if he didn't win top am by 3 minutes, then he won his class by more than 3 minutes. Regardless of the fact, wow. He has gotten top amateur at every single round. He remains perfect on the season, taking those top amateur honors on that Phoenix Racing Honda. I mean, he's killing it. He won, or no, he didn't win. Last weekend at the Mid-East Hare Scramble, he led every single lap except for the last lap, where Grant Baylor was the one to dethrone him and take him off. And take him away from getting another overall win at the Mid-East Hare Scramble. But that just tells you right there, it takes an experienced XC1 veteran to take Brody Johnson out and take a win away from him. So Brody Johnson, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him, as, like I said, he remains perfect on the season in that top amateur spot and in that 250A spot. So shout out to Brody. That was awesome to see him do. And then moving into our WXC class, Becca Sheets, speaking of remaining perfect, she remains perfect on the season. She switched to that Yamaha machine at the beginning of the season and has not looked back. She has taken 5 wins in as many rounds. So awesome to see that kind of reinvigorated spirit from her. Yeah, so Becca Sheets, she has won every single round this season so far. She wins this past weekend in the sands of South Carolina at the Camp Coker GNCC. Another Yamaha in second. That was Rachel Archer. Rachel Archer is on that AmPro factory Yamaha supported machine this year. She grabs second place, which she was pumped about that. And Rachel Goodish on the factory Beta, she goes out there and gets on the podium with a third place finish in a stacked WXC class. I think they had 16 competitors out there in that WXC class. So for each one of those three girls to earn podium positions and Becca to win over that field is definitely saying something. And that level of competition has gone up in WXC exponentially, and podiums are very hard fought and very well earned if you earn those in that WXC class. So those three girls definitely did earn that. But one thing I want to talk about here, Taylor Jones and Mackenzie Tricker, we're used to seeing both of them on the podium. And we don't see either one of them on the podium this past weekend. That is because in the first lap, those two got together, and Mackenzie was wearing a GPS watch, and she was able to narrow it down 40.1 miles an hour. They locked handlebars, I believe it was, and they both went down hard. I heard from people that went by it right afterwards that Taylor was just laying out in the tall grass, not really moving. And Mackenzie was able to get up and kind of block Taylor off, basically worried that if someone went wide into that tall grass that they could have potentially ran her over. So first of all, I mean, major kudos to Kenzie for staying there with her to make sure that she was all right, especially when her herself was hurt. She's all bruised up and banged up, and the bike's all mangled, and damn clutch is either the clutch or the brake lever just hanging off of that bike. And so she went down hard as well. But for her to sit there and make sure that the Taylor was okay before Taylor got up and rolling, that was also a major sign of that GNCC family that I was talking about, and sportsmanship, sportswomanship, if that's a word. But what I want to talk about here is Taylor Jones. Taylor Jones, the number one, obviously, 3-time defending GNCC champion, 3-time defending Sprint Enduro champion, and then 2-time National Enduro champion. She's got, I don't know how many World ISDE championships now, 6, 7, 8, 5, 4, a lot. Team championships as well as individual overall women's championships at the ISDE. So that doesn't come by chance. You don't get those type of credentials or those type of accomplishments by chance. That doesn't just happen upon you. Those are hard fought and well earned. And days like this past weekend, I think, shows exactly why Taylor Jones is Taylor Jones. And that's exactly what I told her, is that this weekend we found out why Taylor Jones is Taylor Jones. So she goes down on that first lap in however long she was down for. She was able to get back up and continue racing. She came through on the first lap in 12th position when they went through scoring the first time. I'm trying to do the math here. 5 seconds, a minute 10. Now we're at a minute 15. A minute 16. Now we're at a minute 26. Now we're at 2 minutes 36 seconds. Looking for 6th place. So now we're at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Now we're at 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Looking for 4th place. 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 25 plus another 45. That's 4 minutes. I can't do math. That's like 4 minutes and 15 seconds. We'll call it 4:20. Going to 3, so that's 6 seconds, so we'll call it 4:25 just because I think I did the last one wrong. Second place is another second, so 4:26. And so, yeah, 4.5 minutes down on the first lap. Keep in mind, crash going 40 miles an hour, all but knocked out in the middle of the field. She lost her front visor. She rode the rest of this race without a front visor on her helmet. 4.5 minutes back. Now, most people, men, women, children, four-wheeler, dirt bike, anything, these WXC riders, they have drops. They can use drops throughout the season. Most people, 40-mile-an-hour crash, get banged up, lose your visor off your helmet, bike's mangled, and you come around 4.5 minutes down on the first lap. And we're talking about the first lap of a 5-lap race, and you're already starting 4.5 minutes back. Most people in that situation pull off the track and get ready for 2 weeks at Mount Morris, Pennsylvania. Taylor Jones, 8 championships in the past 3 years in America, not to mention all of her world championships at the ISDE. That's not what she does. She goes out there, continues to race, continues to push, ends up putting down, let me double check before I say it, but putting down some of the fastest times of the day, battles her way back from 4.5 minutes down to ending just off of the podium in 4th place position. But just the way she was riding and still putting in consistent and competitive lap times after all of that and pushing through all the way to the end of the race, I think that was awesome. Not a lot of people would do that, so it was cool to see, and especially, like I said, seeing her come around with the bullet head helmet without the visor and just pushing through that. Obviously, she was injured last year and had to miss some rounds, and I think that ended up playing a role in the National Enduro Championship. It almost played a role in the GNCC Championship. Becca had an opportunity to still win the championship at the last round in Indiana last year, so maybe Taylor Jones was thinking about that. If something was to happen, you can never predict the future, so maybe she just wanted to salvage some points for that. But either way, for her to come back from that and finish 4th place and gain some valuable points there, I think that was an awesome ride and an awesome show of character for Taylor Jones in that situation. Have not talked to Taylor Jones yet. She is scheduled to be on the show. She will be one of the interviews that you will be hearing tomorrow. So I plan to ask her all about that and kind of hear her perspective of the race and how it went. And if you have any questions for Taylor Jones, Grant Baylor, or Cody Webb, our Instagram right now has the question stickers up. Go to our Instagram, type in your questions. I would love to hear them so that way I can ask your questions live on the show, just like I asked some questions from Instagram to Josh Strang here. So go to @OnThePipe Podcast. You can check us out and give us some questions. We are about to roll to our interview with Josh Strang to hear from him, our overall winner from this past weekend. And we're going to end it on that note after the interview. So, like I said, it's a long one, but it's a good one. So, without further delay, we're going to get to that. Make sure you're checking us out On The Pipe Podcast. You can find us online on thepipepodcast.com. That's where you can find all of our shows. Find us wherever podcasts are available. And if you like the show, please tell your friend about it. Let them know that they can find it. Throw it on while you're traveling to a race or working throughout your day or working on your bike out in the shop. Sorry this one was a little bit long-winded, but enjoy this interview, and we'll be back with 3 more interviews tomorrow for your listening pleasure. So we're going to go to our first guest of the evening. He was the overall winner this past weekend, taking the win at the Camp Coker Bullet on the Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki. Welcome to the show once again, Josh Strang.
Yeah, good man. What's going on?
So, first of all, congratulations. You go out there, you get the win this past weekend. How's that feel, just to get on the center of the box again and just hear your name, Josh Strang, overall winner? I mean, how's it all feeling a couple days later?
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was it's been a long time. I'm pretty sure it's like 4 years. I think June 2016 was my last win. So it's been a long time, and when it didn't really feel like that until you think about it. And it's not like I haven't been trying to win since then, but it just hasn't. The opportunity hasn't come up, I guess. So, and I probably don't think I haven't deserved to win properly. I mean, I feel like I'm riding fairly well at the moment, so I feel like I deserved the win on the weekend. It was good, and I mean, it felt good. Unfortunately, we didn't have a podium. That kind of sucked, and I think something happened to the trophy, so I didn't even get the real trophy yet. So hopefully, they said they'll have it at the next race, so that'd be cool, though. hopefully they deliver a trophy next race. That'll be sweet to bring home and put on the mantle or whatever. So, sometimes I think for me now, getting the cool trophies and the overall trophies, that's something that you'll be able to remember years down the track instead of trying to think about how the race went.
Yeah, and I saw that they had like kind of a fill-in trophy that they took pictures with and had you hold up and stuff over by the rig after the race. But how is it? I mean, June 12th, 2016 was your last one. It was at Tomahawk up in New York. 4 years later, you get another win, and then there's not even a podium. I mean, do you feel like that kind of robbed away from the experience at all with kind of going back to the rig and staying out of the limelight? I mean, was that something you were looking forward to?
No, because no, not really. I mean, yeah, that's a difficult question. But no, like that, I'm not upset that we didn't have a podium. I mean, that didn't ruin my day, that's for sure. But it would have been cool to have a podium. But I think the coolest thing was I posted up about it yesterday on Instagram. Like the crowd or the noise that everyone made at the finish, or for like the last half a mile, was the most noise I've ever heard from any of my wins or anything since being over here. So I feel like that was sweeter than actually being on the podium. I mean, it was just like, it was a cool feeling. I don't think I'd forgotten that much, but I swear there was more noise there on Sunday than there ever had been. So I thought that was actually the coolest thing. Like, I came around, there was a sharp right-hand bend, and then you kind of did a little S up to the finish line, and I came around the sharp right-hand bend, and Cameron was standing there with Maverick, and she was cheering. But then once she was cheering, I could hear everyone else, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool. So that was probably more important than not being a podium. I mean, like I said, it would have been cool to have a podium, but it wasn't. I wasn't gonna be upset that we didn't. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that, because as a fan, this was one of the most exciting races. First of all, it's the second race back, and so everyone was already wanting racing to come back, and so it's the second race back. And during the live show, Stu actually said he was kind of going back and forth about the battle and Caleb's mentality late in the race. And he even mentioned, he's like, I think everybody wants to see Josh get this win. And I think that was the crowd had that same sentiment. I think the crowd wanted to see you get this win. You went out there, you got the win, you battled back, and you guys battled really the whole race. But that's got to mean a lot to you as well, because when we talked to you at Big Buck, you got on the podium, and one of the things I asked was, are we going to see some wins this year? And all year long, you've been kind of, I don't know, right now, just having fun racing and not really claiming it. Well, today, and one of the times I think I remember you saying, like, something would have to go wrong, but this was 100% earned. I mean, you led the majority of the race. You and Caleb swapped back and forth a lot. And granted, he did have that crash on the last lap, but you were ahead, and you were staying ahead. Does that make it a little bit sweeter that it wasn't some fluke like you thought, or like you said in the past that it could be? Like, you went out there and straight up earned this one from start to finish.
I don't know. I mean, it's still only one race. So over the last 4 seasons, that's one race out of 40, I don't know, however many races. So we'll see how I go. We'll see how I go in 2 weeks, and then you can see if it was a fluke or not. But I'm not like I'm really happy with how I've been riding, and I feel like I've been getting closer, and not just this year, but towards the end of last year, I was getting closer to the front. And I feel like I definitely feel like I deserved it on the weekend. I felt like I rode my best race, and I think I rode the better race on Sunday. But I mean, Caleb was coming into the last lap. Well, he caught me twice there towards the end. So he caught me once, and then he had to fuel, and then I tried to pull away, and he caught me again. So I mean, he was definitely going faster, and I think I was just fast enough where he was he had to work hard to try and for one catch up and then try and pass. and I think that's what maybe caused the mistake. So that's unfortunate, but it was good racing. We didn't pass a whole lot actually. I think we passed maybe 4 times the whole race, and once was in the pits. So, but I was happy I was able to keep up at the start of the race, and then keep ahead towards the end, especially on the last lap. I think there was a couple of places where he was going to try and pass, and then about halfway through the race, I was trying to think of where he was. Halfway through the last lap, I was trying to think of places where he would try and pass. And I couldn't think of a whole lot of places, and then from about a half a mile from the finish, there was a lot of grass track, and I figured that was where he would try and do it, make a pass, because that's where you could make it stick, using the outside in or some more moto, just some different lines you could use, and that's where I was thinking he was going to try and make something happen. So I was trying to be prepared, and then it was, like I said, unfortunately he crashed. And I was able to ride in fairly easily. So I still wasn't sure what happened. I was waiting for a sneak attack all the way to the finish.
Dang, man, we got to figure something to get you pumped up about these things. I feel like you're always humble about it, but we got to get you on the charge and excited to win these races. And
no, don't get me wrong. I'm excited, man. I put in a lot of work, and there's just, you can't, like I said, it's one race. If I had won 10 out of the last 20 races, then I would be more expected. But I'm still it's almost like I'm just starting to learn how to win again now. So I'm getting podiums, and I got the win on the weekend. So I would like to keep trying to continue. And to win against Caleb is difficult in itself. So I just got to keep plugging away, man, and race my own race. And I was talking to someone today. They said, I forget what they said, and I was like, I'm just if I do my best and it's a third place, then and I've had a good weekend, then I'm gonna be happy, you know. But if I do my best and it's a first place, I'm gonna be pumped. So I'm just gonna keep doing my thing, and the cards will fall how they fall, and so far this year I've been having a blast racing. They've definitely been difficult, but all the races are, and I've been having fun.
So, let me ask you this, and kind of going off what you just said, with knowing this and going into it, and yeah, you might not have won in the past couple seasons, but going into this season, you were looking at podiums, and you've been on the podium every single race. So, not only, you've put yourself in a really good position for the championship. You're second place in points. You're 23 points down from Caleb, and 44 points ahead of third place with your teammate Jordan Ashburn. So you got to be excited about putting yourself in a good position for this championship. But going into this race, as you mentioned, Caleb, tough to beat. You went out there, you beat him. Does that do anything for your confidence? Are you still looking at it the way that you just said, going out there having fun and doing your best, and wherever you finish? Or is there kind of a new energy in you now that, all right, well, we showed that we can do it. We've got this confidence. We showed that we can win races. We've shown that we can beat Caleb. Let's go do it again.
Yeah, that's the goal. Everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to go and win, and that's what I want to do too. But I've said it a couple of times this year that at this point in my career, I want to go racing and have fun. So, like I said, whether it's if I have my best day and I get a third or a second or a fourth or a first, I want to enjoy the ride, and I believe that's when I will get my best results, when I'm having fun. And if I have fun on Friday and Saturday at the track, and then I get to the race on Sunday and I'm excited to go race, and I think that's when I'll get my best results. So I think the championship is not. I haven't even looked at points. I don't even know. I obviously figured I was in second, but the championship ends in November, so I'm not even going to put that on my list to stress about. I'm just going to go race my races and enjoy it, and be a good good role model for Kawasaki and ambassador that try and sell bikes and just go talk to people and have fun, man. And that's what I've been doing, and it really has been good. I've been enjoying it a lot more.
All right, well, I'll give up. I'm trying to get you to come out here and say, yeah, I'm here to take over the world. But I guess we're not going to get it out of you. But, I mean, it's an awesome mentality and awesome mindset for you to be in this position that you're in as the only other champion that's out there. And, I mean, 2010 champion, now we're in the 2020 season. So it's really cool that you're still finding a way to have fun all these years later. And at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. And going off your Kawasaki, sorry to be the one that brings up your championship point standings, but I'm a nerd and that's what I do. Speaking of nerding out and championship standings, one thing that GNCC does every single year is a manufacturer's championship. And if you look at the points right now, Kawasaki's leading the way by a long shot. How important would that be for you to help bring home a Kawasaki championship?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Does that include youth, morning and afternoon race, or just afternoon? How does that work?
It takes the two highest overall manufacturer machines in the afternoon race.
Huh. Yeah, no, that'd be pretty cool actually. So again, there's still a lot of races left, so we keep plugging away, and then I mean Kawasaki would be pumped with that, I'm sure. So we'll just keep plugging away and having fun. I mean that's our whole team: Freddie, Joey, Denny, myself, Jordan, Cameron, and Mary. We all get along, and we just enjoy it, man. We both camp at the track, and we just get along and talk about things not other than racing, man. And I think that's what, because Jordan's been out a long time too, and I think that's what keeps me going. Just I come to the track and I'll talk to someone about something else, like not racing dirt bikes or not how the track looks. I enjoy talking about what they do and other things in life. So I think that's what's good about our team. We can come to the race and race competitively and be competitive, but at the same time we'll talk about the sky blue or whatever, you know. Or actually, like right now, on the weekend I talked to Jordan and his dad about buying generators. And it's like just things that just not racing, man. And it's fun to talk to people about other stuff, and it keeps it fun and keeps me wanting to come back. And being around GNCC, just there's so many unique people with different stories and different jobs and all that sort of stuff. So you always get to talk about something else, which is good.
Yeah, man. And it's such a melting pot of different people coming together, like you mentioned. But, dude, it sounds like you really got it figured out. I mean, you talked to us before about riding 2 times a week, not overdoing it, and really trying to keep the fun about it. And even when it comes to race day, just kind of letting the stresses go by and talk about generators rather than lap time. And so I think that's awesome. Speaking of that, and I mean adding to these memories, obviously riding a dirt bike for a living, it is what it is at the end of the day. I mean that's still what you're doing right now. I was thinking about it, and I realized that this was your first GNCC win with your son there to see Maverick, and then I got to think about it, and it's actually your first race that you've won since you've been married as well. So what's that like, being able to share that win with your wife and your kid, to have him there and see it happen?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, Maverick was unsure about it on Sunday. I think just all the people around and the noise that was getting made, he was unsure about it. But it was definitely cool to have him there. But to have Cameron there as well, she does a lot for me, man. It's crazy. I appreciate it all, and even though sometimes I may not let her know how much I appreciate it. but I do appreciate it, and it's cool to have her there, like with my family still being in Australia. I've won a few races in the past, and it's just I haven't really had anyone there to to be with in the moment, like when you win the race, like to hug or talk about it or laugh with or smile or whatever. My family's always been back in Australia for the most part when I won races and won the my dad was with me when I won the championship, but it's good to have her here just because, like I said, you get to share the experience with someone that you're close with instead of, in the past if I won on Sunday, I'd go back to the motel by myself and then fly back to California on Monday, and it was like I wish now that I would have celebrated or treated it a little more, like had a little more fun with it or something like that, instead of treating it just like a job. So, like right now, Monday night we went out to sushi with some friends and had a couple of drinks and celebrated it, man. And that's what I should have been doing all these years. And it's cool to have Cameron here because she helps me do that. And, I just feel like it means a little more nowadays than it did back then.
Man, I mean, better late than never, and it's cool that you are able to recognize that now, and really at this stage of your career, enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoy everything that it took to get you here, and it's got to be a cherry on top to even go out there, and I mean, you've been on the podium at every round and ended up with a win here at round 5, so that's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's good, and it is good, and it's cool to see. Hopefully Maverick understands. Maybe I can do it for a couple more years and stay competitive where Maverick understands that I was able to race and make money doing it, so or pay bills and make a living doing it. So it was it's good, man. I love it. It's awesome.
For sure.
And also having Maverick at the track, actually we got that we have that little seat on the mountain bike, and he gets on and I get to do a lap with him. I tried to do a lap with him on Saturday morning, and he got a full lap in, and then he got half a lap in on the weekend. And so he has fun, man. It's funny. He'll make noises and stuff riding the track, and then actually on Saturday I had to help a little quad go up a hill, and I had to make sure Maverick was standing off the track just waiting. He wasn't sure what was going on. I had to pull this kid up the hill, and he was standing there he had no idea. So it's fun having especially.
That's awesome, and I mean those are the memories that you're gonna look back on. I mean, even when you were sitting there getting interviewed and everything for TV, Maverick's over there playing with his toys in the dirt, just running circles, just having a good old time. So
yeah.
I did have just a couple quick questions about the race. And then we'll let you get out of here, and I think we got a couple fan questions if you want. But
yeah.
So last race, so at the Bulldog, started out towards about 5th place, so mid pack towards the back, and you had to dig yourself out of that hole. You ended up getting 2nd place, but the last 2 laps you made up a 30-second gap and ended up basically watching Caleb go through the finish line. You were right behind him. Did that play into your mind at all this past weekend when you were there with him, as far as keeping him in sight for those 3 hours so that way you would be there at the end?
Yeah, so the second, the Bulldog was obviously a different race to the first one. It was dusty and hardback. And, I mean, if you're in 2nd place, it was probably hard to see. I don't know. I think I was, like you said, in 5th or 6th or something. So it was definitely hard to see until everyone kind of got spread out a little bit. And once we started getting spread out, I don't know, I feel like I rode fairly decent. And it was a hole on that one too. So rode fairly decent and caught up to Ricky and Caleb there. And then Ricky had the crash on the last lap. So I caught Caleb towards the end. But I think that race definitely helped for sure to realize that I can run the pace for majority of the race or whatever to be up front. So and then running into this weekend, I don't know, man. I just like I said, ran my own race, and I just wanted to try and keep up with Caleb early in the race, and then let it play out from there. And I mean, you got to take small steps. So if I can keep up with him for the first lap or two, then you can work on the middle of the race and the end of the race. So, I feel like the Bulldog definitely helped, but I think the whole season, I've been building the whole season, so hopefully we can keep it going.
For sure. And so the other thing that I want to talk about real quick is when you first got the lead at Camp Coker, Caleb pitted on lap 3. You went by the pits and ended up pitting a lap later on lap 4. Was that the plan all along for you to pit on lap 4, or did you guys see that as an opportunity to maybe get the lead and stretch the lead out, knowing that your bike could make it another lap?
No, see, I didn't know the plan, and I figured we were I figured we were going to have at least a 7-lap race. It ended up being 8 laps. But I think the boys do all the gas. I just pull in when they tell me to. So I think they figured 4 laps was around 25 minutes or something, and my bike can do that fairly easy, I think. So I have a feeling it was planned to do 4 laps the whole time. That way it was going to be a one-stop race. So I was surprised. Well, honestly, during the race, I didn't think about why Caleb stopped for fuel that early. But when we got done, they were the boys were wondering why he stopped. And who knows? Maybe he needed goggles, or they may have needed to. Anyway, so whatever. He stopped early, which ended up working good for me, because once I knew he stopped that time, I figured he was going to have to stop again.
Mm-hmm.
So he stopped, and then I figured that was my time, or my turn to try and sprint to pull away, because I knew I was going to have to pit the next lap. So if he had caught up to me, then he would pass me and pull his gap. So I sprinted. I felt like I put in a fairly solid sprint. I think I ended up pulling out maybe 25 seconds or something.
Yep.
So it ended up being good, and I was, so for me it worked good. But yeah, there was no pre-plan to stop on a different lap. I think his bike probably would have done 4 laps as well, honestly. But that's what they did. So I feel like we had the better pit strategy, obviously. So it worked good for us. And I didn't run out of fuel, so it's good.
Yeah, I'd call all of that. I would call all of that good for sure. And you on that lap 4, even with that pit stop, was still one of the fastest times of the class and one of the fastest times of the day on that lap 4. So putting the head down and sprinting and trying to make that gap up, knowing that you had to get in that pit, I mean, that shows it was an excellent job by your Babbitts Online Monster Energy Kawasaki team there, getting you in and out of the pits and able to, I think, stay in the lead after that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It was good. Everything went, I've said it multiple times, for not just myself, but for anyone to beat Caleb, they have to be on their game. And that just says something about him, like as a competitor and whatever. Like he's won all the races he has, because it's not by fluke. He hasn't won 62 or whatever it is by fluke. He won it because he's good, you know. So to beat him, you have to be on your A game, and you have to have you have to run your race at 95 to 100% perfect to win. And I felt like my race on the weekend was pretty close to perfect. So if I would have changed anything about the race, I'd probably maybe try and stay away a little further towards the end of the race. But I feel like I was trying to stay away, and he caught up. So, I feel like, like I said, I feel like you have to run a perfect race to be competitive with him, and to beat him, you have to run the perfect race. So I feel like I had a good race, and that's what mattered.
Good deal. Yeah, and he posted that video update of his crash and everything that happened, and the last thing he said on there was that he might not always be 100%, but he's always there. And, I mean, that's true, because even after the crash, he was still on the bike and finishing. And just like you mentioned, he's a competitor, just like you guys all are. But it's still cool to see you go out there and get that race, especially with the whole crowd behind you down there in South Carolina. Close race for both of you guys, really, but as far as traveling-wise. So That crowd, they were pumped to see you win and pumped to see you get back in the middle of the box there, even though there wasn't a box to stand in the middle of. But the last thing here, and we kind of put something out on Instagram for some people.
Real quick, there was one race a couple of years ago where I think I had a feeling I had 50 seconds on Caleb going into the last lap. I think I was in second. I was at the Penton. And so it was hot. The Penton always gets hot. And
Yeah.
This just shows what kind of racer he is. So I was in second. I'm pretty sure it was like 50 seconds, 40 or 50 seconds. And I'm like, he won't catch me. And I swear it was like halfway through the lap. I could hear his bike coming. I'm like, man, kind of sounds like someone fast. And and then before I knew it, he was behind me. And I swear it was the last 5 miles. I was going as hard as I could, and I held him off, but I don't know how. And then, at the end of I remember crossing the finish line. I was dry heaving. I gassed myself that hard. So that just shows, he if you think you have enough time on Caleb, you probably don't have enough. So, it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate that he crashed, and I would never want to see that. But it would have been definitely cool to battle him down to the finish line, and I'm sure that's what it would have been. It would have been a race to the finish, that's for sure. So, but no, it was a good weekend.
Man, hearing that story about the Penton when you were 50 seconds ahead, going into this one 5 seconds ahead, I can completely see why at the end of the race you were still waiting on something sneaky to happen. Did that Penton replay, did that play in your mind during that last lap? Like, not again?
No, it wasn't the last lap. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 from the finish. I'm like, I need to keep trying to pin it because he'll be here.
Oh, man. Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is your 21st career victory, and there is a short list of people that have been able to sneak wins in the past 7 years over that orange bike. So you are on that short list, and you've done it several times, and you took another one here this past weekend. So once again, congratulations on that. Just got a couple quick questions. For Evan Smith. So Evan Smith commented on there. Speaking of not dirt bike related things, he said, "How has Modern Warfare helped you prepare for your GNCC win?"
Well, I think it's the recovery process that has actually helped quite a bit. So, I'm into little gaming. I'm not a huge gamer. I just pretty much all I play is the Modern Warfare or Call of Duty. And usually when Maverick goes down for a nap, I try and sneak in an hour playtime. And then occasionally during the week, I get the boys on, T-shirt included. We get on and play a little bit online, and it's fun, man. It's relaxing. And honestly, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, so that's what if I had an option between TV or that, I'd probably choose that for an hour or so, and then head off to bed or go back down to the basement and work on stuff. So I'd play a bit of Call of Duty, and it actually helps me relax and recover a bit. So we'll keep it in the program.
Heck yeah, glad to know it still makes the cut. Brat Pub, who I think you talked with them the other day, but they asked, what is your biggest fear when racing?
Who was it?
The Brat Pub. Oh no, that was Stu that talked to him. I get confused.
Oh yeah.
You and Stu have been making the podcast rounds.
Yeah. Biggest fear when racing. I don't know.
Hey, that's a good enough answer for me. If you're scared, it's kind of hard to stay relevant for 10 years.
Yeah, no, not scared about anything. I'd always be scared of breaking a bike or something and having to explain to someone that's probably the most thing, actually. It's like if you ever had to have a mechanical DNF or if you got injured or something, be scared to tell the boss or something along those lines, So nothing really that cool or scary.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I race, I feel like I'm in control for the most part, and I feel like that's why I've had a fairly good career, injury-free career, because I ride in control for the most part. So that's what happens when you don't. That's when you get scared, I think, is when you're out of control. So I think luckily my old man knocked some sense into me, and I'm not too crazy on the bike.
Hey, to finish first, you must first finish. So
That's right.
Near Amos 32, the photographer, I forget where. I think he's from Chile or Argentina or something, somewhere like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He asked if you are going to participate in the ISDE in 2021.
He'll have to ask Motorcycling Australia that question.
I figured that was going to be the answer.
I put my application in this year, and obviously the 6-day got cancelled. But I didn't hear back if I got selected or not. I don't know, man. I'll put it in. I'm pretty sure I'll put my application in again, and we'll just have to see what they decide. Maybe I'm not up to speed. So
yeah, I still find that hard to believe how everything went down the year after a gold medal performance.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So we'll see how that one plans out. And then last one here, Need Prayer Racing wanted to know your favorite GNCC round so far this year.
Well, honestly, I mean, people would say this is, is it cliche? If I said Coca?
No, I was actually already planning on responding because I figured you were going to say anything but Camp Coker, and then I was going to be like, well, you won Camp Coker.
No, see, I like that. That place is fun. Like, again, with the whole having fun thing, that property is pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot to do. Like, there's all those ponds and everything, and there's good camping, good grass. I mean, it's just nice. Like, it's a nice area. So I like going there before you even go racing. And that's what I was saying. Like, second lap in, I was like, man, this is fun. This track's fun. I mean, they're rough, but that's what we race on every weekend. All the tracks we race on are rough. But, like, I was having fun early in the race. And so that place was fun, but I really enjoyed the first Georgia race we had earlier in the year. So, the General. I enjoyed that a lot. I think just because it gets real ruddy and not so much not the mud, but I just like when the ruts form up and we get cool corners and that sort of stuff, and the tracks get technical. I enjoy that, and I like that place too. So, so far this year, I'd say the General at Georgia, and then also Coker, man. Just partly because the property is so cool.
Yeah, can't blame you there. That's I think that and Snowshoe are some of the coolest atmospheres with stuff to do and things to do and being able to hang out or go fishing or go swimming or whatever you want to do. And then last there was a Miss Cameron Strang, something like that. She said, "How great is your wife?" But you already went through that without even having to answer that question. But
yeah, that's right. So I don't even have to answer it again. She won't be able to fit through the door in the morning. Head are we too big?
See, look, you brought it up before it was even brought up, so now she knows that you meant it.
Yep.
Well, Josh, thank you once again for coming on and talking to us, and congratulations once again on grabbing the win. Looking forward to seeing you go after again in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for having me on. It was good. And then, I'll be excited to go race in a couple weeks up in High Point, I think.
Yep.
Or Mount Morris or whatever. Yep.
One of one of the 8 races on that property this year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're looking forward to it.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks again, man, and we'll talk to you later on.
All right, mate. See ya.
Bye.